Is it time to sell your Bitcoin for Ethereum, or maybe there's another trade? Today we're going to break it down for you. We've got an excellent interview that's going to, I think you guys are going to love this one. But anyway, my name's Paul Barron. Welcome back into the show. Let's get started. I want to thank our sponsor, and that is Gemini. You can actually go over to Gemini right now and get your own credit card over there. And guess what? You can earn Bitcoin. That's right, Bitcoin, 4% back. It's like one of the only cards I know of that's going to be able to give you those kind of rewards. All you have to use is our link down below. You can, and the way the sign up works, if you spend 3K in the first 3 months, they're going to give you another $200 on top of that. So it's a really cool component, and you can even get the orange card if you want. I chose the black card, but hey, that's because I like black, man. And there's a couple of things here that you can also do. Here's a stack of all the rewards right there. So a lot of transportation up on the high list, dining, groceries, etc. And then if you don't want Bitcoin, well, you can flip over into a handful of others, and you get to choose what asset you want, and it's instantaneous. So check it out. Use our link. It does help the channel. Let's get into it today with Erik Crown. You guys have seen him on the YouTubes out there, known as EC Crown, or K with a K, over on YouTube. Make sure and visit his channel right there. He goes into a lot of really cool trades. Erik, welcome into the show. Thanks for coming in.
Pleasure to be here. Been watching for a long time, and it's glad to be on the PBN network.
Awesome. Well, you have come at the right time because the market is as heated as it can be. ETH is battling with Bitcoin right now. We saw what looked to be an ETH breakout, and then Bitcoin said, hold my beer. It came roaring right back. So tell me a little about where you see the market at right now, especially with what we're seeing in terms of 4-year cycle.
Sure. Yeah. So to go over the 4-year cycle, I think everything's changing really for Bitcoin in particular. The reason why most likely is because of the ETFs. Everything's changed, in my opinion, since that came alive. And this whole cycle really has been structurally different in very objective ways. If I can actually share a chart really quickly. Yeah. So this cycle has been completely uncharacteristic compared to any past cycle. And the reason why we know that is because this cycle has experienced very long, multi-month long corrections. We're talking Bitcoin trading in a range for, anywhere between 5 to 7 months. We've seen it 3 times now. We saw it, of course, right here. We saw it more recently right here. And then, of course, the most recent one right here as well. This is completely different than anything that we've seen in the past. If you look at past cycles for Bitcoin, it's always been just a straight shot, that parabolic blow off top that everyone loves, once Bitcoin breaks new all-time highs. That's what you saw, of course, right here in the 2021 saga. In 2017, it was just a beautiful, very long-term, but all was just straight up the whole damn way. And then same thing over here as well. No multi-month long corrections that led to major continuations. In this case here, we've had three very, very long ones, 6 months or so on average, which is just uncharacteristic. So to me, that says that the game is changing. If the game is changing, well, it makes sense because ETFs are going to attract a whole different type of investor. And we have to realize that, the traditional sort of investor, especially, big money managers, hedge funds, these sort of people, they don't trade like the traditional crypto aficionado, let's say. People in the people who are native to the crypto space, they're very, apt to go in 10x, 20x, 50x, 100x leverage. And that's what kind of creates these, major parabolic blow off tops. But we have to realize that hedge fund managers, they're going to do things differently. They effectively, or in general, they will have a mandate that, if Bitcoin goes up, let's say 20%, they're going to sell some of their position. And if Bitcoin goes down, 15, 20%, they're going to buy some. And we've seen that volatility massively dissipate for Bitcoin here. If we look at a Bitcoin volatility index, you can see it's just been falling off a cliff ever since that 2024 January ETF debut happened. So to me, that says that, Bitcoin volatility going down, which is generally good for the upside. We're going to get more sort of consistent upside, but you're also going to get these very long consolidation sideways, which to me says, hey, these long-term parabolic blow-off tops and dumps are not going to be happening in the same way that we're used to anymore. You're going to get these sort of, nice move up, trade sideways in a box, nice move up, trade sideways in a box. And when things do turn down inevitably, it's not going to be, I highly doubt it'll be a 70% plus downside move. I think really at most, maybe we get 50%, something like this. Yeah. But even then, I imagine it'll be, again, down, sideways, just because of the way that these players will, trade this.
So you hit on it right there, Erik, and that is the fact that we are looking at a completely different psychology of traders. And this is something that I've been, kind of talking about for quite some time. And that is what is changing this 4-year cycle. When you look at that and where ETH dominance, or I should say Bitcoin dominance is right now, I was just looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart, and everybody's kind of been looking at, this is on the weekly, but everybody's been looking at this channel right here. Around 60% is the window. We dipped or came very close to that. I think it just dipped under 60%. Will this make a difference in terms of entering alternative assets? People call it altcoin season. For many of you that are new, that just simply means assets other than Bitcoin and ETH. Do you think that's going to be the window for us to say, okay, yeah, there's going to be some other rotations?
Look, I think in every cycle, you're going to see these sort of major pumps for altcoins, typically near the end of the cycle. The issue with them is that most of these do not materialize into long-term macro uptrends. So these are always short-term trades. If you're getting into altcoins, in my opinion, it can never be a long-term investment. I have yet to see one single altcoin that has beat Bitcoin for 2 or more cycles, meaning that it made a higher macro high from cycle to cycle and a higher macro low. There's not been one that I've seen. Now, I'm completely open to being proven wrong on this, but I've been searching around for the last 3 weeks just for an example of one. And I haven't seen that happen. So yes, do I think that there's going to be a nice, large, just big bounce across the board with most altcoins? Sure. Are the newer ones going to be the bigger beneficiaries of that? Most likely, yes. Are they going to hold on to these long term? Very unlikely. So that Bitcoin dominance, whether it's going up or down, I don't think it matters all that much, because long term, the trend against Bitcoin is down and to the right towards zero.
Yeah, and I think the key here is anytime you are going into these high volatile investments, short-term trades, and even to a certain extent, some of the securities out there kind of move in this way. If you think I look at it, Tesla is probably the one that has the most similar narrative to where it's up, it's down. It depends on what Elon's doing that day or that week as to how the market is moving, which feels a lot like a meme coin sometimes. But to your point, I think the Bitcoin ETF, what we've seen now with the ETH ETFs have all started to dictate onto the market. Here's Matthew Siegel. He was talking about this very issue. You look at some points, though, 56% of the AUM of Bitcoin ETFs, 169% of the net inflows. This is something that's been done in 16 months, all right? And you consider this and the capacity of where this market could go, because this is just the beginning, and we really haven't seen real regulatory framework until now. So are we destined for a continuation of this? And back to your point, maybe Bitcoin does only a partial retracement this time around.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I think is going to happen. I think people are going to be, very much accustomed to those 70% plus massive dumps, from cycle to cycle. Mm-hmm. And you're probably not going to get that. I mean, I think 50% would be, that's fine. Like if that happened, I would be happy to buy there. Yeah, maybe it goes a little bit lower. Sure, that's fine. But I don't think it goes much lower than that if it goes that low, that low at all. During this current cycle, we haven't even really got these major pullbacks in the way that we have in the past as well. We've seen a couple of 30% pullbacks, which, is huge if you're in traditional land, of course, like absolutely. That's a massive crash. Like everyone's, jumping out the window. But in crypto land, this is just a Monday. Tuesday. So it ain't so bad. Right, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I think that those days are over. I think that is generally going to be kind of a grind. And if you want sort of an allegory or a chart to kind of follow, maybe not exactly, obviously, but just a general idea, it would be gold when gold's ETF debuted. It was just this grind up and grind up and grind up. And so I don't think you need to get super cute with buying Bitcoin if you're a long-term person. Yeah. I think, maybe you don't necessarily want to buy at exact all-time highs, but if you see a 15, 20% pullback, I think that that's fine personally. If you're a long-term investor, 5 years down the road, you're probably going to be rather happy.
Yeah, for sure. If you look at top indicators, because there still are a lot of traders that are in it for now, the next 6 months, the next 8 months, maybe they're not in it to, to try to wear this out, or maybe they're in a position right now where they're trying to win as much as they can and then spin down into Bitcoin when we do see a retracement. Some people would say that's the strategy to go. If you look at some of the indicators out there, you got everything from the pi cycle top, the multiple, the rainbow chart, anything that you're watching as far as an indicator that says, hey, we have seen another top indicator here.
Yeah, I mean, there's several things that I'm watching, and I think that we're on the verge of another, multi-month long top coming up, probably between, September at the earliest, maybe late October at the latest. I can show a few charts here. This is where I can go full on nerd mode on this kind of stuff. But one of the big ones for me is just looking at this weekly stochastic oscillator. It is in a zone that is effectively called all of the major tops throughout this current cycle. And again, those major tops throughout this current cycle, we've seen 3 of them thus far, and they've been, 4 to 6 months in total. All of them correlate with these same levels. This one over here led to a 203-day correction. This one over here led to a 70-day one. This one over here, a 224-day correction. And this one over here, 161 days. And we're seeing that level hit yet again over here as things do turn down with momentum. So to me, that says, hey, maybe this one has one more, surprise move to the upside, but we're a lot closer to a major high than not. The majority of this current move is likely done, and we're probably going to be waiting around for a long time as well. On top of this, I think a lot of people are familiar with this chart. It's the Tether dominance chart. So just like the Bitcoin dominance chart, it measures all the other assets versus Bitcoin. This one just measures all the other assets versus Tether, and it is down around the exact same level that we've seen the past few major highs in this market. This level has marked off, if we put on a Bitcoin chart in the background, the high that we saw back on over in March 2024. That was this segment right here. And then the more recent one that we saw in November/December of 2024. And so these areas like to get ground out for, 91 days, and perhaps another 91 days. And where does that bring us into? That brings us into about October. So I think that this current move, again, is on the clock right now. And if we move even further than that, we can go ahead and look at the stock to flow rainbow indicator. I know a lot of people like to laugh at this one. And hey, it is kind of funny, but, it is in that same sort of region where we have seen actually cycle tops in the past. But, as you know, I don't think that we're going to see a really nasty drawdown, just another maybe 6 to 8 month long sideways correction. On top of this, we can go to the halving to high chart that I've got over here. And all I'm doing is just measuring the time from the halving to the high, and found that, especially for the last couple cycles, this was around the 520 to 550 day mark. If we draw that one out here as well, where does that put us? October 1st. So we have so many things coming in from the same direction. On top of that, if I pull up the perhaps earliest time, it would be this fib time extension right here, which has been pretty apt at calling the highs and lows throughout these major trending moves. And that one has another date coming in basically the first week of September. And if I go back over here and look at the monthly stochastic oscillator, we are once again heading up towards a similar region that we've seen for the last few highs, right? If we look at this region, we mark off the last few times we've seen this area hit, that would be this, and I imagine it's going to get hit if, at least in a couple months. So that puts us out to October, maybe even as early as September. These have correlated with major highs that lead into major corrections. I think that that's probably what we're going to see relatively soon as well.
All right, so Erik, that's kind of a looking at a short-term window here. You look at some, analysts out there, they're thinking, much longer-term plays here. Matt Hogan was kind of hitting on it right here. If you looked at, where this market compared in 2020 and what you were investing in, Ethereum classed as tech. Then, of course, you have Bitcoin right there, gold, NASDAQ 100, S&P 500. These were some pretty solid annualized gains and very good, healthy returns. So do you still feel that this is really the track that investors should be looking at right now? Instead of now 2025, we're looking out to 2030.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're a long-term investor, if you're managing a portfolio and you don't have Bitcoin, I don't know what you're doing. I think that there's more risk in not having that. Of course, it doesn't need to be all Bitcoin, but the returns speak for themselves, especially over the past 5 years. Who's going to beat that? Nothing.
Yeah. What about this idea of rotation right now? So we saw ETH run up to 4,300. Bitcoin, of course, was sitting around 116 at the time. It came in. There was some pullback in the market, and now people are saying, well, maybe this is an issue where it's actually ETH that is pulling Bitcoin up the chart right now. Do you feel like that is the case or no?
I mean, I think that Ethereum is going to outpace Bitcoin for a little bit here. But, going back to the earlier conversation and sharing my screen once again, look, I think it goes maybe even another 50% from here. It could easily go to 5 million Satoshis on the ratio. But long term, this is, in my opinion, a massive loser. You can't, like, I personally, if I'm putting on the long-term investor hat, I don't want to invest in anything that can't beat Bitcoin from cycle to cycle. And we can see here for Ethereum, it has not held higher highs and higher lows from cycle to cycle. In 2021, it put in a lower high, it came back down to the lows. To me, that's a losing investment long-term because you could just be in Bitcoin, which is, kind of like the SPX of crypto in a way. It's a safer one, if you will. Can I be wrong about this? Yeah, absolutely. Would I be happy to be wrong about this? No, of course. I hate being wrong. No, of course. I'd be happy to be wrong, about this as well. But realistically, even if this chart, like I said, goes up another 50%, which I think it very well may, in fact, this is Ethereum's time right now, then it won't even put in a higher high versus its Bitcoin parent. To me, that is just long-term weakness, even though if you're a shorter-term trader, yeah, you're probably better off holding a bit more Ethereum right now if you want better gains, for sure.
Yeah, okay, so I want to play a clip for you. And this clip is Tom Lee. I would say he's the ETH marketing lead right now out there with, with BM&R. Anyway, let me play this clip for you, and then I want to get your opinion. Take a look.
And to give perspective, in 2017, Bitcoin was under 1,000. But that was the year when Wall Street discovered that the narrative of Bitcoin is digital gold. And Bitcoin has gone to 120,000 now, so 120 times increase. In 2025, a couple things are happening around Ethereum. The first is the Genius Act is now making stable coins kind of green-lighted, which is the ChatGPT moment for crypto, but it needs a smart contract, so it doesn't work on Bitcoin. The second is the SEC is pushing forward with Project Crypto, which is actually asking Wall Street to move the entire financial system onto the blockchain. Ethereum is the preferred choice for Wall Street because it's had zero downtime since inception, matching what the banks want, 100% uptime. It's also the most legally compliant and secure blockchain.
All right, I hate when Tom Lee throws out fundamentals like that because you got to figure out a way to argue with that. But to your point is maybe it doesn't flow out long term, but what Lee is saying is that maybe this is the 2017 moment for ETH, and now is its time because of all these scenarios that are playing out in the infrastructure of capital today. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, after watching that, I'm a believer. I'm in.
He's a good salesman,
look,
man. He sells it well.
Right. I mean, look, he talks his book. There's no secret about that. And fair enough, he's allowed to. Look, I look at charts. I don't know about all of what he said. It sounds great to me, but that's the problem. Everything sounds great to me. And if I went off of that, I'd be investing in, every damn altcoin, let's say, that exists on, on the planet. But for me, I have to go off of charts because I need something objective. And objectivity comes from price. Price is the truth. Price is, what everything comes down to at the end of the day. That's how people represent their actual opinions with real actions by buying or selling. That opinion that he has, I mean, like I said, it sounds logical. It sounds great. He speaks well. If I'm just going off of that, yeah, I'm all in. But personally, I personally will stand back from that one.
All right. Well, there's a lot of people that are kind of pushing this. What do you make? This is Joseph Lubin. Just a quick look at then again another guy talking his book, and we've seen this. What do you make of these treasury companies? Both on the Bitcoin side, obviously Saylor is the titan of the industry right now, and his call with obviously with strategy. But now we're seeing this with ETH and even a handful of altcoins that are trying to play in this direction. Do you think these are long-term plays on the Treasury side?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I can go both ways with this one, mostly because it feels to me like a similar thing from the .com era, where everyone just added a .com at the end of their name,
right? And
their stock went to the moon and beyond. And did they actually have that value? No, they got washed out during the next sort of cycle. I think that's very well what could happen here. But I don't have super strong opinions about this, to be honest.
All right, last point to you, Erik, and I'm going to look at an ETH price prediction and also a Bitcoin price prediction. We're looking at the ETH high right now. Polymarket's calling it before October, so right in line with what you're talking about. What do you think we're going to see in terms of ETH's high? Obviously, we'll, at least on this chart, they're saying all-time high by that time. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I think this is Ethereum's time to shine these next few months here for sure. I wouldn't be surprised to see it anywhere between 6,500 on the low end to as much as maybe 9,000 to 10,000 on the higher end. Yeah.
Wow. How about Bitcoin by end of year?
By end of year, I think on the lower end, maybe something like 135. On the upper end, about 150 to 160.
Anything on the side of strategic reserves? If the U.S. were to come out, I know Bohein's just stepped down, but if we do get strategic reserves by the U.S. where they're actually creating some way of acquiring Bitcoin, do you think that would initiate a longer run for Bitcoin into 2026?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I could easily see a high in October, cool off for 4 to 6 months, something like that gets announced, and then it's just the same thing over again. Rinse, repeat.
For sure.
I really do think that that's probably what's most likely to happen.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I like you guys, of course, follow Erik over on his YouTube channel. Just jump over there to Crown, right there, EC Crown. You guys can find him right there, and very easy to do. Let's get into it with you. I want to, of course, have you back on the show as things start to transpire here. So we'd love to have you if you can make it. Welcome in,
Sure.
To your new digs. Hopefully everything's going well for that as well.
A slow start, but thank you very much, man. It's really been a pleasure, and glad to be here, and looking forward to next time. Take care.
Excellent. Appreciate it. All right, you guys, if you are not part of the Diamond Circle, get in on that. That's our own private group. It's an email list that you guys can get in on additional research that we do here on the team. And guess what? It's absolutely free. All you have to do is hit the link down below. Follow me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.